The servants in the Gilded Age have shown us that there's much to learn about how they communicate with each other compared to how they interact with their employers. But in reality, the relationship between employers and servants was stricter than it is portrayed in the show. The Van Ryn's footman, Jack, is slowly climbing the social ladder into becoming a noble and wealthy man with the invention of his clock, and it's so wild that you wonder if things like this were possible in the Gilded Age era. As we dive deeper into what having servants was like and their experiences with their employers, you will discover whether Jack's success is just for the TV or if it was actually possible back then. In the Gilded Age, wealthy New York families employed household help, including butlers, cooks, nursemaids, and coaches. Employing numerous servants in that era was a status symbol, as any indication of wealth was highly valued. And since the wealthy employers were always too busy planning and executing parties and events, the servants barely got a day off, like Jack did, to meet with his potential investors. Employers were very strict in the Gilded Age, and it was a significant flex for them to have all these servants who tended to their needs. There was a lot for the servants to do in a big American household, with tasks such as laying out clothes, polishing silverware, and cleaning parlors and bedrooms, as well as many more responsibilities in a large mansion. However, even though the servants are often in the same space as their employers to perform some of these tasks, the homeowners dislike seeing, smelling, or hearing them. And because of this, the servants' workspace is located in the basement, where the employers rarely go. But even more remarkable is that many of these upper-class homes from the Gilded Age feature jib or secret doors, hidden stairwells, and secret passageways. They put paintings on doors to make them pass as walls just for the servants to use, so the homeowners wouldn't use the same doors and stairwells as the employees in the home and wouldn't bump into each other while doing their duties. It's even crazier that some passageways in the Gilded Age were extremely long, extending from the kitchen to the main dining area, all because the homeowners didn't want the house to smell of food or the servants who prepared it. In that era, after they'd done their day's job in the basement, the servants retired to their living quarters on the top level, where little and undesirable living spaces were located. The small rooms are located directly under the roof, where the servants sleep, and they are usually uncomfortable because the heat rises in the summer. All they'd be dealing with are the smaller windows and ceilings. Despite sleeping at the very top of the house, they'd have to find their way downstairs to the basement using the secret stairwells and doorways so that the employers don't see them in the main living area. The basement is essentially the servants' workstation, where you'd find the cellar, the kitchen, food storage, laundry, and the servants' hall, where they sit together to eat their meals. They usually spend all day working in the basement. However, the secret stairwells aren't as large or safe as those used by the employers, which means the servants are subjected to a sharp, dangerous, and tricky staircase daily to commute from the upper to the lowest floors. The servants performed their tasks most magically, without being seen or smelled, as the employers just got to see everything working. Meals appearing on the table, fires being lit, and beds being warmed by an invisible hand. The servants being kept hidden while doing the most is such a huge practice that King Ludwig II of Bavaria invented a genius way to make sure he doesn't see or interact with the servants by installing a special dining area where the table could be lowered down to the basement for the servants to change the course without talking to them. And as you've seen in the Gilded Age, the servants can't go through the house's main entrance as they have their entryway underneath the main one where they can go in and out. Even when they had to bring plants from the winter garden to the conservatory, they used this different entrance to avoid disturbing anyone in the house. The front door is primarily a sacred entrance reserved for the upper class, not the servants. So it would have been highly impossible for employers to engage a servant like Jack in a conversation about his clock invention. However, we are just getting started with the dark and hidden tales of the servants from that era, as you wouldn't have imagined how insane the practice was. In the Gilded Age, some households were more affluent than others, so the number of servants in a home depended on the size of the family family's mansion and its financial resources. In that era, a new millionaire household could afford to employ 20 or more servants who usually lived in the home on the upper floor. During the Gilded Age, middle-class families barely existed, and it was either you were wealthy or poor. As the rich continued to amass great fortunes, it was reported that 16% of the population in New York City worked as servants. These servants came from diverse ethnic backgrounds. Most were of Irish, Scandinavian, or German descent. Having servants was so common that questions about them were frequently discussed in the newspapers. The questions usually range from how to communicate a servant's duties more effectively to what you should pay them and where to find good help, as well as educating employers on compensating or disciplining their servants. However, despite the efforts of the household servants, they were not paid enough, which kept them at the bottom of society's social hierarchy. The servants also have a hierarchy in their roles and positions within a home, with the superintending housekeeper being the most senior of the ladies. This position is often held by a woman who supervises the rest of the household staff. Her daily tasks include checking with the cook about the day's menu and inspecting the rooms to ensure the cleaners have completed their tasks. She can also relieve the mistress of the house of some of her duties regarding the servants by hiring and firing other servants. Her monthly salary is between $50 and $150, and the modern day equivalent of that is $1,700 to $5,400. The lady's maid is the next in line, and her tasks range from handling the mistress's toiletry needs, tending to her clothes, and other various tasks associated with her social engagements for a monthly sum of $25 to $40, which translates to approximately $850 to $1,440 in today's currency. Following the lady's maid is the house or chambermaid. This servant's task mainly involves a specific room in the house. They are responsible for dusting, making beds, including airing out bed linens, cleaning and sweeping embers from the fireplace, all for a salary of $18 to $25, which is estimated to be around $612 to $900 today. During the Gilded Age, maids were often assigned to specific rooms, such as the parlor and dining rooms. The parlor maid's task was to keep the parlor and family rooms in the best condition. In contrast, the dining hall maid served as an assistant in the servant dining room and was usually the only servant who served other servants. She earned about $20 a month, today's equivalent of about $680. In that era, wealthy people's outfits were often heavy, featuring multiple underdresses, and they could change into as many as 4 to 5 dresses in a day.
You need 4 outfits a day at the minimum. Decent jewels and a full dance card.
Making it essential to have laundry workers. These workers weren't just tasked with washing clothes, but also rugs and bed covers, and they went through the most torturous means to fulfill this responsibility. They wash by boiling and laying everything to dry. Typically, a head laundress could earn $30 a month, which translates to approximately $1,020, and the assistant might receive a sum of $18, equivalent to around $612 in today's economy. The butler holds the most importance and respect among the male servants, as he must possess management skills to oversee his assistants, have good handwriting, and be able to perform basic bookkeeping, earning as much as the female servant's leader. Then there's the helpful man, who's a jack of all trades, where Jack gets his nickname as his real name happens to be John. His tasks include bringing wood for the fireplace, fixing things, serving guests, turning wet laundry, and a host of other activities. He receives about $30 to $40 a month, which translates to an estimated $1,020 to $1,440 monthly. The chef is also very important in a Gilded Age household, as he's more like a director with a paycheck of $100, which rounds up to $3,400 in a month. The chef is usually French, as French cuisine was trending at the time, and even Bertha Russell emphasized this fact on the show. Sometimes the chef can also be a woman, so it was their job to shop for raw ingredients at the market to cook for the family or special events and dinners, which always happen in a typical Gilded Age home. They also have the valet, who is like the lady's maid and the personal assistant to the man of the house. The valet presses and prepares his clothes, gets his bath ready, and even accompanies him him on trips to ensure his needs are met. Although the income made by the servants is somehow decent for the poor newcomers who found jobs in the elite homes, they also get to have a nice deal that affords them a place to sleep and only get a half day off on Sundays, which would have made it unlikely for a servant like Jack to be going out for business meetings while still serving a household. One Mrs. Walter Lester Carr, wife of a prominent doctor from that era, revealed how strict she was with giving servants time off in the 1895 New York Times article series, Competent Domestics. Mrs. Walter said, "I never allow my servants an afternoon off during the week. Why should I waste so much time and cause a great deal of inconvenience in doing the work myself?" In The Gilded Age 3, Jack is fortunate to have the opportunity to explore the business world under Mrs. Van Ryn, as the show also promotes the American dream, which is about rising from the lowest point to become a self-made success and amassing a fortune that surpasses what parents could achieve. In many households in England and the United States, this was impossible in that era. Still, with a flexible home like the Van Ryns, The Gilded Age tells a scarce story that speaks to the value of hard and brilliant work by the servants.